Recently, we've heard about a couple new development projects, such as Cross Creek, and then the new one they're talking about off Providence when the extension is finished through there.
North of the city.
Do you think Columbia can support that additional growth, those developments?
Well, first of all, now you keep talking about development and growth. There's population growth.
Right.
There's industrial growth. There's geographic growth. I mean, sorry, if you don't separate these things out, it's just gobbledygook to talk about. So you're talking about developments that were largely commercial. They had very little population in them. They bought, but they certainly weren't industrial, and they weren't distribution facilities. They weren't the kind of things that would provide a lot of high-paying jobs. They were essentially extensions of at least the Cross Creek one, of we're just going to collect more sales taxes. Well, the fact is, that didn't work. Now, there were various reasons why people voted against and were interested in the Cross Creek. I testified against it and asked them to vote against it because we have not done good comprehensive planning and growth planning on a large area land and sub-area planning process so we can figure out conceptually the kind of things you want in general areas. I do not think that was a good place for the things that were there. But first of all, it just didn't come from any kind of overview of what we want kind of east there. If you read the article in the paper op-ed by Sid Sullivan, he did an excellent job of showing that putting this thing in just blocks all kinds of other things and raises all kinds of other issues. The point is to think about these things in advance. And I would have voted against it, because we have not meaningfully thought about it in advance. And that's before you get to the atrocious behavior of the applicant. And it's before you get to the fact that the neighborhood associations got together and they raised their issues. But it would probably have still been a terrible plan. And actually, it's really a terrible land use. That's before you got to the plan. Because it's probably inappropriate for that place given the other effects it was going to have. The neighborhood associations were raising their concerns, but we've relied for too long on neighborhood associations. This is individuals coming together with virtually no resources to actually try and help make the different zoning decisions and the planned district decisions, make them better. I'm sorry, they're not totally up to the task. And somebody told me yesterday that Paul Sturtz and maybe Almeida are saying, well, maybe those neighborhood associations have too much control. Well, of course, the only control they have is they can come down and make objections. This kind of stuff. They don't have a veto power. But the fact is, with a will, they've been the only progressive voice for good planning in this town for years. You can't find that in the city government whatsoever. Given that, they're also not able to really do the overall kind of planning I'm talking about. And if you read my thing, I've proposed a whole approach to this, which is organized by the city and the county together, includes the stakeholders who are involved in all these things, to think about the overall, as we might divide the area around Columbia into quadrants. We might divide it into sixths. And then we can begin to think about these things. Absent that kind of planning, it's hard to say exactly what might be good or might be good there at the Cross Creek area or north. But to the extent they were just pushing the old sales tax route, then they're a disaster for our economy because it isn't adequate.